The Australian Grand Prix is just around the corner, and all eyes are on the teams as they prepare for the season opener at Albert Park. The paddock is buzzing with talk of upgrades, and while some teams are keeping their developments under wraps, others have already given hints about what's coming. One team that struggled last season is set to introduce the most significant percentage of new parts, hoping for a fresh start. Meanwhile, among the top contenders, most will make only minor adjustments, small refinements rather than major overhauls, building on what they learned during preseason testing. However, one technical aspect is drawing serious attention: rear wing flexibility. Two of the leading teams are expected to make crucial changes to their rear wing designs before the Australian GP, with stricter regulations and tougher tests in place to monitor any possible violations. McLaren's latest approach has already turned heads. The MCL39 has been spotted using an innovative trick near the wingtips, creating an effect similar to a mini DRS. At the same time, teams like Mercedes and McLaren have been seen with rear wings where the upper flap appears to flex more than usual. While this isn't a major concern right now, officials will be keeping a close watch to ensure compliance with the regulations. These innovations, particularly what McLaren has introduced over the past 2 seasons, showcase how far teams are willing to push the limits within the rulebook. However, regulatory bodies are keeping a close watch, preventing certain design paths from being fully explored. With a new technical directive now in place, teams suspected of using excessive rear wing flex will need to make adjustments before the Australian Grand Prix to avoid potential penalties. McLaren has focused its efforts on the edges of the rear wing, fine-tuning their concept to extract maximum efficiency. Ferrari is also rumored to have implemented a similar approach in their SF25, raising further debate about how far teams can go before crossing regulatory lines. This discussion gained traction when Red Bull's technical director, Pierre Wache, pointed out that some teams were taking advantage of flexibility in the regulations to gain a competitive edge. Formula One responded by introducing stricter deflection tests, which will come into effect in Australia. While these changes could slightly impact performance for McLaren and Ferrari, they are unlikely to cause a dramatic shift in lap times. On the upgrade front, one of the biggest surprises is coming from Sauber. Reports suggest they will introduce the largest upgrade package at the Australian GP, something that caught many off guard. Sauber's aggressive upgrade strategy has raised a few eyebrows, especially since the team didn't have its full car ready for preseason testing in Bahrain. According to their own admission, only about 80% of the car was in its final form during testing, with the remaining 20% set to arrive in Melbourne as part of a major update. This was confirmed by their chief technical officer, James Key, who stated that several key components were missing during testing and would be introduced at the season opener. The big question is, what exactly is Sauber bringing to Australia? While precise details are scarce, analyzing their performance in testing gives us some clues. The car features an unconventional design approach, with tweaks not commonly seen on the grid. Their side pods, for instance, have a unique structure that stands out, but the most intriguing aspect might be the way they are generating downforce. The upper bodywork of the car suggests that the underfloor design is also radically different. Despite these innovations, Sauber struggled significantly during testing. The car lacked stability at the rear, making it difficult to control, especially when compared to midfield competitors like Williams and Alpine. If the upcoming upgrades focus on critical areas such as the diffuser and mid-floor, they might see a notable performance jump. However, Albert Park presents its own challenges. It's a circuit where a strong front end is crucial. If Sauber's improvements don't address their instability issues, they could still find themselves struggling in Melbourne. During testing, Sauber's performance raised concerns, with drivers struggling to keep the car stable, especially in comparison to some midfield teams. While engineers tried to remain optimistic, Nico Hülkenberg was quick to point out that the car's fundamental balance was lacking. This puts even more pressure on the incoming upgrades. If they don't fix the core issues, Sauber might find itself battling at the back of the pack once again. Meanwhile, at Red Bull, the team has already rolled out its first set of upgrades during pre-season testing in Bahrain. A revised front wing and an updated underfloor were put to the test, but while the front wing provided more stability, the underfloor didn't perform as expected. Max Verstappen noted that the RB21 still struggles with mid-corner instability and understeer. While the car feels better to drive compared to last year's version, the same weaknesses remain. There's growing speculation in the paddock that Red Bull didn't make enough progress over the winter. Instead of introducing major changes, the team is opting for small refinements, with another set of adjustments expected in Australia to address mid-corner handling issues. Whether these tweaks will be enough to maintain their dominance remains to be seen. Moving on to Mercedes, this is a team determined to reclaim its place at the top. The W6 showed promise during testing, with a strong front end that responded well in corners. However, the rear stability was a concern, an issue that many teams, except for McLaren, seem to be dealing with. Over the course of the 3-day test, Mercedes appeared to have found a decent balance, but there are still areas that need improvement. Technical Director James Allison has taken a measured approach to upgrades, focusing on small but effective refinements rather than major overhauls. This strategy has been Mercedes' norm in recent years, allowing them to make steady progress rather than introducing radical changes that could disrupt the car's development. The same philosophy helped them improve the W5 last season, and they are hoping for similar gains with the W6. Testing indicated that the W6 has taken a step forward, but some weaknesses remain. Tire degradation and low-speed cornering were areas of concern, and while the car looks better than last year's version, it still isn't perfect. The rear suspension has undergone significant modifications, so the real test will be whether these changes help manage tire wear over a race distance. Australia's layout, with its mix of medium and high-speed corners, should play to the car's strengths, but Sector 3, where precision and balance are key, could expose some of its lingering weaknesses. If Mercedes wants to be in the championship fight, they need to get a solid grip on the W6 early in the season. The team isn't wasting time, already planning to bring minor upgrades to Australia to fine-tune the car. While these changes won't be drastic, they could provide valuable improvements in handling and tire management, key factors for consistency across the season. One of the most anticipated storylines heading into the Australian Grand Prix is the debut of Kimi Antonelli. Making his first appearance in Formula One, the young driver will be under the spotlight as he takes on the challenges of racing at the highest level. His testing sessions showed glimpses of promise, but also exposed areas that need refinement. Tire degradation was a particular struggle, a problem that many rookies face when adapting to F1 machinery. Comparisons have already been drawn between Antonelli and Oscar Piastri, who faced similar issues during his debut season. However, Antonelli's driving style is a unique blend of aggression and calculated decision-making. This approach could work to his advantage in race conditions, allowing him to manage stints effectively while still being competitive. Aside from Sauber's major update package, most teams will be sticking with the cars they ran during preseason testing. The main focus will be on gathering more data and fine-tuning balance, rather than introducing significant changes. However, one key area where several teams are making adjustments is the rear wing. With stricter deflection tests being enforced in Australia, teams like McLaren and Ferrari will need to ensure their designs comply with the updated regulations. Red Bull's technical director, Pierre Wache, recently pointed out that some teams have been pushing the limits of flexibility in their rear wings, prompting the FIA to introduce tougher tests. While these changes might slightly impact performance, for teams using flexible designs, the overall effect on lap times is expected to be minimal. Looking at the weather forecast, conditions in Melbourne are expected to remain dry for most sessions, but qualifying could see some rain. This adds an extra layer of unpredictability, as teams will have to decide whether to adjust their setups for a potentially wet Saturday or focus solely on dry race conditions. Some teams might opt to add more downforce to improve traction in mixed conditions, while others could gamble on a lower downforce setup for better straight-line speed. With all these developments in play, the Australian Grand Prix is shaping up to be an exciting start to the season. The upgrades, regulation changes, and unpredictable weather could shake up the pecking order, making it a crucial weekend for teams to set the tone for the year ahead. McLaren and Ferrari will be closely watched to see how their rear-wing adjustments affect performance, while Red Bull's mid-corner stability issue remains a talking point. Meanwhile, Mercedes' steady approach to upgrades will be tested as they try to close the gap to the frontrunners. And then there's Sauber, bringing the biggest update package of any team. Will it be enough to turn their preseason struggles around? Their performance in Melbourne could be a strong indicator of how competitive they'll be this year. As the countdown to lights out continues, fans are eagerly waiting to see how the grid shakes up when the real racing begins. The season opener always brings surprises, and with so many variables at play, this one could be even more unpredictable than usual. So, are you ready for the action to begin? Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to stay updated on all the latest from the 2025 Formula One season.